Today's segment of Oh Brother is sponsored by FLS Energy, bringing solar energy to your home. Visit them on the web at flsenergy.com for more information.
So southern, they'll get up for you for nothing.
What a week already. I mean, exciting Monday. We had Nick Davison on to talk about the Elf on the Shelf. Tuesday, of course, a very exciting, what?
That was on a,
Wednesday, probably the most famous guest we've ever had on the show, Deanie Dean from Dean Company.
Certainly the best guest we've ever had.
Yeah, well, and then Thursday followed up another great guest, Les Newby from Vultureweb.
Yeah, this has been an exciting week, no doubt about it.
And today, we got a controversial little subject on our hands.
Let me tell you something, Will. You and I, we have friends, for example, that are Alabama football fans. I myself am an Alabama football fan now after they beat Florida and became number one in the polls. You know, I always pull for. Yeah, that's who I pull for. So I'm an Alabama fan.
Yeah.
And today's final countdown is going to be kind of a public service that we are providing for people who are Alabama fans, because it turns out Alabama fans will routinely say, oh, you know, we've won 12 national championships. And here on Oh Brother, we want to provide a service for those people by letting them know that that's not accurate so that they can stop saying that, because that's embarrassing for them.
Yeah, and we are not the only ones that have brought this up, Reed. This has been talked about on many radio stations, and recently it was really brought to the forefront when the BCS selection show on Fox happened a week or two ago, when they were going to announce Alabama's number one, and they said Alabama, with their rich tradition of 7 national championships, they're going for their 8th.
Right, and certainly we...
And that was kind of a big deal, because most Alabama fans went,
what is that? All right, so here's what we're going to do, Will. Today, of course, is the final...
by the way, all Alabama fans don't talk like this.
No, only like 45%, something like that. Yeah. All right, Will, today, of course, is the final countdown. Let's go ahead and cue the music right now.
There we go.
Okay, that proves that it is Friday. It's time for the final countdown. Today's final countdown, we're going to be counting down the 5 most questionable national championships that are claimed by the University of Alabama. The university itself officially claims 12 national titles, and we're going to look at the 5 that are, in our opinion, the most questionable. Now,
and you know, the silly Auburn, they've only got 1. But I heard that one argued. Of course, I've heard it argued many times. But I heard it argued the other day that Auburn has no national championships because that was Alabama
Polytechnic.
Yeah, Polytechnic
API.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, anyway.
Okay. Let's go ahead. Before we start the countdown, I just want to real quickly mention that I did some research on this to come up with this information, and I want to go ahead and credit Michael Collins of Bleacher Report and someone named Greg Goodwin, and I saw his article on a site, an Auburn-related site called Track 'em Tigers. So that's where the information I'll be reading from on today's final countdown came from one of those two writers, Michael Collins of Bleacher Report, or Greg Goodwin writing for, I guess,
and the University of Alabama, Reed, has a website that lists all the championships, and it says a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, but they don't mention how absurd some of these are. So, Will, let's go ahead and tell us, number 5, what year is it that's a questionable title?
1964. They won it that year.
You know anything about that?
No, I don't have the information in front of me.
Let me tell you something.
I have read about that.
Yeah, it says here a 10-1 Alabama team in 1964 claims a national title for that year, in spite of the fact that there was an 11-0 Arkansas team that has a better claim. Here it says an instance of both the AP and the UPI, which is now the coaches poll.
Right.
Okay. Both the AP and the UPI, which voted Alabama number 1 that year, still voting prior to the bowl game. Used to, they would vote.
Isn't that crazy? There has never been a good system in college football of how to pick a winner.
Now, in defense of Alabama, during this era of college football, the bowls weren't really that important, right? Okay, but what happened was they voted before the bowl games, and then what happened was Alabama went on to lose their bowl game. It says here to Texas in the Orange Bowl, oddly enough. Of course, they'll be playing them for the national title this year. And Arkansas beat Texas during the regular season. So
Texas claims it also that year.
No, I think...
Arkansas does.
Yeah, I think Arkansas, if you look at it, probably would make more sense for Arkansas to be the national champion that year instead of Alabama in 1964.
Yeah, but that one's
it's just sort of questionable. That's why it's number 5.
Yeah.
All right, Will, what's the next one?
Okay, 1973. Now, Reed, this is...
A little more recent here.
Yeah.
Okay, let me tell you something, Will. This is
you were a teenager. You probably remember this.
Yeah, that's right. Alabama, under the guidance of Bear Bryant, was ranked number 1 and played against Ara Parseghian's number 3 Fighting Irish from Notre Dame in a legendary Sugar Bowl. Notre Dame, it says here, topped Alabama with a last-minute field goal, won by 1 point, 24-23. And here's the thing. Every authority gave Notre Dame the championship except for the coaches' poll, which still awarded its trophy prior to the bowls. Listen to this. The coaches' poll rectified their embarrassment by changing their final vote to after the bowls after this year. So the coaches' poll acknowledged that was so wrong of them that after that year they stopped doing that. And yet Alabama still claims 1973 as a national title, even though they lost to Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl.
Wow. Okay, number 3, pre-1934 titles. So we got 1925, 1926, and 1930. They're all kind of bunched up here together.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about these in detail, but here's the thing. These were all backdated. There was no national title awarding, at this time. And these were all like polls that came along later and said, oh, listen, by the way, in that year, Alabama won or whatever.
Okay.
And in one year in particular, 1926, it looks like Alabama traveled to Pasadena to face Stanford, and the game was a tie.
Okay.
It was a tie.
Yeah.
So if anything, you would think that should be a split. That shouldn't be Alabama's national title. That should be like a split title at most.
In Pasadena, how do you think they traveled to Pasadena in 1925?
On roller skates.
Wow. How long would that take?
That's a long time.
4 days.
But back then, Alabama used to be a lot closer to Pasadena.
Gotcha.
A lot has changed since then. All right, Will, what is number
2? 1934.
Okay. This is where they started to get interesting.
Okay.
1934, Alabama
As
was...
if they weren't already interesting, whatever you've already said.
These get more interesting. In 1934, Alabama was co-champion of the SEC, it says, but finished third in the inaugural AP poll. Minnesota beat the Tide 50 to 5.5 first-place votes. Not in a game.
Oh, gosh, I was going to say, how did
Minnesota,
a scoring system.
Once again, listen to this. Are you listening?
Yeah, sure.
Minnesota got 50 first-place votes. Alabama got 5.5. All of the consensus selectors picked Minnesota. Who picked Alabama? There are these 3 little polls, one of which was run by a geologist from New Orleans. His picks have a distinctive bent. It says here, eliminating the years when no Southern schools were on top of the rankings and overwhelmingly consensus picks, he disagreed 7 times. Right, so he's never been right, this guy. Yeah, he picks Alabama. Listen to this. Alabama claims that as a national title, even though the consensus was that Minnesota was the national championship, or national champions that year.
So what? So the 7 that are known, that everybody says, well, except Alabama, the people that wear the shirts or whatever. Most everybody says Alabama has the 7. Those are what all AP voted,
that's
and
right,
some of them are AP and UPI. They're unanimous votes. I mean, Alabama.
Yeah, a couple, obviously
right.
like 90,
which
92,
by the way
whatever
is, I'm going to point out, incredible. That's a lot of national championships.
A lot. Alabama, obviously, listen, and I should know, I'm a big fan ever since they became number 1 in the poll this year. Yeah, Alabama's a great football program. But, Will, let's get to number 1 on today's final countdown.
Okay, all right.
What is it?
1941.
Okay, Will, what I'm about to say, you're not going to believe.
Okay.
Alabama claims a national championship in 1941. Okay, here are the details. Alabama, 9-2, had lost to Mississippi.
No. LSU, Reed, won a couple years ago with 2
different.
losses.
That was under the completely stupid system they have now, the BCS. Yeah. All right. Alabama 9-2 had lost to Mississippi State and Vanderbilt, and the Tide finished ranked, I'm not making this up, are you ready?
Sure.
20th in the AP poll. Ranked 20th in the AP poll behind 4 SEC teams, right?